Hi everyone, welcome to my sewing room. I'm Ann Dale. We're here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm about to start our next digital dealer exclusive 2024 from Kimberbell. Cute as a button. It's a Trapunto pillow. Let me share. So I have a couple different versions that we'll walk you through today. Sweet, right? So there's some extra layering in here to give you a 3D look. Might not be as visible on camera as it is in person, but I'll take you through a supply list of the things that I think you might find helpful today. We'll work our way through stitching this out, sewing it together, getting it stuffed up and ready to go on display in your home. Thank you for joining me. Now, if this is your first time with us, there are 7 previous digital dealer exclusives and a bonus design called What's the Buzz? Now, What's the Buzz is included with a 1-year pass to digital dealer exclusives. There are some discounted prices for joining us for the whole year. So if this is the first time you found us and you'd like to go back and enroll in the rest of the year, get all 12 designs and the sweet little bonus What's the Buzz key fob, you're welcome to. Just let one of our fabulous staff members know. And if you're not quite sure yet, we'll have all of the videos up for you to watch to help you decide on which designs are for you. And by all means, don't be limited to a little pillow. Don't go, oh, I don't want a little pillow. This is a beautiful design. Think of somewhere else that you might enjoy having this. But I do invite you to check out our YouTube channel, which is mysewingroom.ca, D-O-T-C-A. And our website is worldwideweb.mysewingroom.ca. So do go to our YouTube channel. I hope you find everything you're looking for. Do comment, do like, do subscribe, do all the things that encourage us to do more videos. And if you need a particular video, please reach out to education@mysewingroom.ca and we will certainly see what we can do, or if we've already filmed it but you just haven't found it, we'll direct you to the link that you need. So let's get stitching. Okay, here we are at the cutting table, and let's take a run through the supply list. The Trapunto pillow can be made in 2 different ways. I'm going to film for you multi-hooping, because putting it in the hoop once and doing one big embroidery, that's a little more clearly defined in the instructions. You just go in and you embroider all your pieces and poof, there you're done. We're going to come back to this later. All right, so we don't need a lot of fabric, but here's the picture. I'm going to run you through the colors that I chose that closely resemble the ones in the photo, but of course you are in no way, shape, or fashion encouraged to replicate theirs or mine, but it's a starting point. Okay, so you'll need 1 big square of fabric for the front. You'll need 2 pieces for the back. I didn't use the same print on the front as the back. The back's just a solid. I mean, hopefully no one ever sees it again after we're finished. Then you'll need a couple pieces for border. Got the little yellow honeycomb, which is the same as in the photo. But of course, you are welcome to use anything you like. One of my other pillows is going to have this beautiful orange. Again, Kimberbell fabrics, but that's one of my other pillows. It's one of my other choices. Now then you'll of course need an 8x8 Kimberbell pillow insert. Now a couple things we're going to need. Remember, I'm going to film for you the multi-hooped version, so we're going to need 2 pieces of stabilizer that fit your 5x7 hoop. We need, if you haven't used these yet, a bit of flexifoam. So that's that kind of foamy batting. It has a tricot kind of finish to it. We need a couple pieces if we're doing the multi-hoop. In the single hoop, it's just one big piece. To give the embroidery a little more strength, a little more structure, we're going to put a fusible interfacing or fusible backing or fusible woven onto it. So when you feel it, it's gritty on one side, that's the glue side, the other side's soft. Just a nice piece of structure to add. Then I'm going to add a little bit of project batting as well. So this gives the pillow front a little more cush, a little more quilted look. That'll be nice. Of course, we'll need some Kimberbell paper tape. The most interesting tools that we're going to need is these little gold babies down here. And some of you might recognize those. Maybe in my container here. They're just a pair of standard, good old-fashioned thumbtacks. We'll save those for later. Some of the things that we're going to find very handy, of course, scissors, our Kimberbell tool set, a stiletto for later. I always have a stiletto. We're going to use a seam ripper on purpose. Typically, I know we try to avoid the seam ripper portion of things, but there you have it. We'll need some pins. And I'm going to show you 2 demos. At the end of this project, you'll need to trim out your design to turn it into the pillow. So, I'm going to show you how to use a standard ruler. Although project actually calls for Kimberbell orange pop rulers. They're fabulous. They have 2 versions. There's a square set, and this one here is a rectangular set because not all quilts are created square. So you can see the cutout here is rectangular. We wouldn't need that one for this project, but we're going to walk you through a demo here on the Orange Pop Square set. It's they're quite handy to use for other things besides what we're doing today, and you might thoroughly enjoy and appreciate having a set of these. So we'll walk you through using that, but I'm going to give you a bonus lesson on how you might use your typical quilting square as well, and sort of best practices for that. And, well, I think that's it for our supply list at the moment. Before we head to the machine, let me walk you through the thread. Kimberbell has outlined the threads for the pillow as a white, a cream, a yellow, they actually say light yellow, orange. Oh, I forgot my orange. I better go grab that. Blue, gray blue, a green, and violet. So those are the colors there that I've chosen. So I will happily give you these numbers. Some of them are from the full year set, but of course use as you choose. So white, I won't give you a number there. Cream, don't need a number there. But the yellow I am using in this project is 0704. The orange Oh, 904. The blue I'm going to use here is 3444. It's quite a dark navy. Then I'm the gray blue. Here it's kind of a denim-y color. 4332. I'll use this sweet green 0454 and this violet or purple is 3114. And again, choose what makes you happiest. Alrighty, so as we're getting ready to go to the machine to stitch, there is a little bit of prep. I have nice Kimberbell tone on tone background fabric here. Just gonna give it a little press. All the cutting directions, of course, are in the Kimberbell instructions. Remember, we had that. I've turned this over. Sure hope so. Yeah. We have a fabulous little flashlight tool that will help you keep your brains from being scrambled trying to figure out which side is the right side of a tone-on-tone fabric. When you flash the little light at it, the right side glows. So it's very helpful. I think they're under $5. Check the website. Check the links below the videos. All right, so I've wrong side up, glue side down, and then we're gonna take a minute and we're gonna fuse that backing to the wrong side of the front fabric. Okay, I've given that a really good press. I cut the fusible woven 1/4 inch smaller than the size of the backing, just so that I didn't get any glue on my iron or on my mat. Let this cool before you move it and you'll have very good stick. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. While we wait for that to cool, I have my 5x7 hoop. I've hooped it with that medium cutaway. And I'm just going to load part A onto my machine. So let's get started with the machine. Okay, here we are. Getting ourselves set up for embroidery. As I said, we're going to do multi-hoop here. So I've loaded part A into the machine. If your picture on your machine looks like the picture in the instructions, you've got it. I'm using a pre-wound bobbin. I love them, my favorite in the universe. They are actually made by Wonderful, which is also a local Canadian company. Okay, so bobbin's in, and I've started with white or cream and top, knowing what the next parts are, so that's just a hint for you. There's no prescribed color here, just something that is neutral. So I'm using either the cream or the white. Okay, so just the stabilizer in the loop. There we go. Embroidery foot on, pre-wound bobbin in, white or cream on top, and stitch color number 1. Right, so it's a little hard to see on camera because we use something that blended in. There's a little tick mark here and a little tick mark down at the bottom. What we're going to do is take that embroidery or project batting, and we are going to find the center of it. I'm going to fold that in half. A little easier off camera. I'm going to put the halfway mark there and the halfway mark here on the lower edge at those little tick marks. Centering from the top to the bottom, so there's roughly about a ½ inch on either side there. And then what we're going to do is just hold this very carefully, flip this up, put my fingers down here to hold the bottom in place, and just roll that out. So try not to dislodge our perfect centering. Yeah, so some of that lovely Kimberbell tape, just maybe in the top and bottom to keep that from moving about. Okay, so taped top and bottom. You can even put a little on the side if you like. And step color number 2 is a tack down in cream or white. Got a tack down line. And we need to trim. So I've brought in my little Kimberbell applique scissors. Typically you want to keep the duckbill blade on the applique. I'm just going to trim where it's stitched. Just release that from the embroidery unit. I'm going to just nip in here, straight in. Just a nice clean edge all the way around. Remove any bedding or tape. Right, reattach that. Pardon me. Okay, color step number 3 is another placement line. Leave your white or cream in and go. Okay, so we've done a placement stitch that shows us where the birds are going to go. We're going to place that flexifoam in here. Make sure that we've caught all the birds, all those placement lines. Then we're just going to place a piece of tape here at the top and bottom. Make sure that that doesn't slip while it's stitching. Color step number 4 is tack down lines. All right, so now we've tacked down our flexifoam. Color step number 5 is a basting stitch that we're just going to use for the next step temporarily. So it asks for a brighter color. I'm going to just drop in yellow. Color step number 5 is any color that you'll easily see in the next step. Alrighty, so our next step is to go in and trim away all of the excess stabilizer or flexifoam there. Whichever scissors make you the happiest. So you're just going to slip in here and trim the excess away. There's some teeny little details in here, so if you have a hard time with the larger scissors, if you need to bring in something a little smaller for the itty bitty details, do. I'm going to just release the hoop so that I have a little more flexibility in the direction that I'm going to trim. Remember, applique scissors, the bill goes on the applique piece, which in this instance is the bird. You're not going to dig so deep in here that you're going to accidentally cut into the batting underneath. So take your time. Okay, there we have the majority of the excess pulled away from the birds and flowers that we're creating in the Trapunto. Now the two pieces that have the yellow basting across it, we are going to trim the excess away there. Because we're multi-hooping this, they're going to be a piece bumped up on there later, so we're just giving ourselves a nice straight edge to bump up against later. And those will actually be, the basting stitch will be removed. They're quite large and easy to remove, so let's get them out of there, shall we? Alrighty, I'm going to switch back to a more neutral colored thread. Beige, cream, or white, something along those lines. These are not colors that are part of the final visual picture, so they do need to kind of hide. Alrighty, so the color step number 6, white or cream, is going to give you crosshairs. So you can kind of see it a little bit in the shadow there. It's a little crosshair here. We're going to take the backing fabric that we have, and we're going to fold it into quarters, right sides together on the first fold. Follow the diagrams in your instructions. What we're going to do is bring that folded, you can see it's been folded into quarters here. And we're going to drop this corner just into the corner on that quadrant there. Then we're going to open this out, bring it straight down. And then very carefully, I'm going to just slide my fingers in the middle here, holding on the right hand side here and gently working the background out flat. And then that'll be centered nicely now. Once you've got that out and about, you wouldn't be remiss in adding tape in at least 2 or 3 places. Some of it might actually be kind of outside the hoop, just on the stabilizer. But now that we've got that perfectly placed, we don't want to lose that. At least 2, 3 pieces of tape would be called for here. So I have one on the top, one on the bottom here, and one on the side there. All right, so now that we've got that in there, start stitching out the pattern. So first color is our yellow. And that's stitch color step number 7. Using the yellow I mentioned earlier. You can choose a different color or a different yellow. And away we go. Color step 7 in yellow. So that color did part of our circular outline. Our next color is cream. Could also be white if you would prefer. Color step number 8 is background quilting. Alrighty, so the next set of instructions has you remove the hoop and then pick up any of these little stragglers. Some of them might actually land in places that we're going to stitch over down the road, so any unwanted jump stitches or little tails, now would be the time to pull them out. Super easy to take out with these little curved scissors because you can get nice and flat and trim without pinching into your fabric. Thankfully there's not too many. So color step number 9 is what we're on next, and that's back to yellow. It's the same yellow that we started with. Color step number 10 is green. Gray blue. Color step 12 is our other blue, which in my case was a navy. Color step 13 is the center of the flowers, and I had chosen orange for this one. Okay, color step 14 is purple, or whatever color you've decided. If you decide to go off book, be sure you share your pictures with us. We love to see alternatives. Color step 15 is back to our green. Some little details. Okay, color step 16 is orange. It's for the little bird beak and some other little details. Okay, color step 17 are some little registration marks, and the color dictated is just something visible, so I'm carrying on with the orange. Okay, so Embroidery part A is complete. So we're going to bring the design out of the hoop. Remove any tape that might be in the way. Going to rehoop. Stabilizer. Just again, that medium cutaway. Okay, and then we're going back to the embroidery machine. Okay, so I have rehooped some medium cutaway stabilizer. I still have orange in from the last stitch out. This is part number B to the pillow. And we're just going to use a visible thread color. I'm going to use orange. Color step number 1. You could maybe have seen there that stitched out those little angle. No, right. So we've got, hopefully you can see just here and here, 2 little angles. What we're going to do is we're going to pull out those 2 thumbtacks I mentioned earlier. I'm going to actually put a little piece of tape on the back of it. And what we're going to do is right in that corner, there's a little tiny hole that forms with the stitch. And I'm just going to push the thumbtack up in there. I'm going to set it back down here and I'm going to press the tape firmly on. Well, the project is on the table, not up loose in the air and not from the back at all. Second thumbtack and a piece of tape. Okay, so then I'm going to put the second thumbtack through the hole on the other corner. Missed that one by just a smidge. There we go. Just gonna make sure the thumbtack is stable there. And then the last stitch out from earlier, we had identical little angles here. So what we're going to do is take the design and drop it onto those, but in this way so that we can embroider the top half of the circle. I'm just going to rotate that for a little bit of ease. Now, I don't really want all that stabilizer in there. I'm going to just kind of know that from that basting line and the line that we have there, I can pull this all the way back here. We want to keep the batting for sure, but we could remove this sliver of stabilizer. If that makes you nervous, don't remove it. So I'm just gonna take a nice sliver of it off. I'm gonna take my design here and I'm gonna work the thumbtack on that corner here. Got that one there. The first one jumped out on me. There we go. So we have used the registration marks to multi-hoop. Kimberbell has quite an ingenious way of doing this. I'm just going to remove any lint or fuzz or anything I may have picked up along the way. This would be an optimal time to take a moment and just tape the background in place so it doesn't move or jump in the next steps. As long as this is on a flat surface, you can press into it pretty firmly. Just don't want anything to jump and move. So if you're pretty pleased, you've got those registration marks nicely in place. We've got everything taped down that we can. We want to remove the thumbtacks. So if everything is aligned here, I rarely use pins in a hooping, but I am gonna, the hoop is over here. I'm just gonna put a pin out here outside the hoop just to keep all the layers happily together. There we go. It's not inside the hoop, so I'm not in danger of stitching into it, but it's going to help just keep everything aligned for the next steps. We don't need them for long, but so I'm pinning, but not inside the hoop. That has never proven to be safe. Okay, so I'm going to pop over here and just gently lift the tape, sliding my stiletto under there. Without tugging hard on anything or putting any pressure. Just getting under there. There we go. So I've carefully removed these from the back, applying no pressure into the hoop here where I might dislodge all the hard work we just did on the front here. And back to the machine. Okay. Back into the machine. Now for the next couple stitch outs, we want to use thread that won't be seen later. I'm going to opt for the cream, which if you remember way back at the beginning was the color I was using for all this tack down at the beginning. So going back to that one, it seems to work nicely. I have no show through in the design. Now, our first step here in the hoop, and I'm just going to release this a little bit, is we're being asked to fold this back now. Okay. Including that batting. Just going to put a little piece of tape to hold that out of the way. Just going to pop that back in. And I'm going to just go ahead putting a placement line. All right, so got a half circle placement here. So that was color step number 2. Now we're going to take that project batting and release it, set it down in place here. If you could use a little bit of tape just to make sure that that doesn't lift or shift. And then we're going to stitch it down. Well, after seeing that on my screen, you may want to put a piece of tape up here on that fold so it doesn't get caught on your foot and disrupt things. Alrighty, so I'm removing tape, and then we're going to go in. Release the hoop. It's just a little easier to trim. So I'm going back where I left off earlier. I'm just going to remove the excess. Excess batting removed. Just going to keep that all rolled back there. Maybe just the tape up here, keep that down. Okay, color step number 4, still with cream as a neutral. I'm going to stitch the placement line for the rest of the Trapunto piece. All right, so we're going to place our flexifoam in here. Just going to remove that piece of tape now. I did stitch into it, but it removes super easy. Tears quite easily. We're going to just drop this other piece of flexifoam in here. And remember earlier we trimmed it out. Just going to bump that straight line up against the straight line that I had earlier. Going to make sure that it's bumped up nice and firm, because part of it is going to be birds from earlier. Let me just see. Yeah, going to be far enough up there. Just don't want it to jump away. Okay. Oops, pardon me. Again with the cream for placement line. Pardon me, it's tack down technically. Just going to pop that tape off it there, because I'm going to be stitching right in this area. Alrighty, so we're going to go in now and remove the excess around our Trapunto pieces. Alrighty, so we've removed the excess flexifoam. Remove any tape here. We'll bring the front fabric down over again. I don't think anything is moved, but if you're worried, you can repin through the registration marks and make sure that that's all still safe. You might want to tape the corners up out of the way now. Oh, there we go. Now there's a basting box that's going to hold this in place. So I'm just going to go ahead with the cream that's still in the machine. Just looking here and there, I think I'm nicely aligned still. Now we are asked to remove those registration lines now. I know that if we don't remove them, sometimes they get stitched in to the design, and given that they're nice bright orange, I don't want them in there for sure. So now would definitely be the time. Okay, so color step number 7 is the yellow that we were using earlier for the circle on the outside there. Color step number 8 is back to the cream or the white if you had chosen that earlier as your background quilting. All right, color step number 9. We're going to double back to yellow again. Color step number 10, green. Color step 11 is gray blue earlier. Now, if you see anything amiss in the hoop and you want to trim it, make sure you turn the machine off. I don't want this little tail to get caught in there. Like this little tail from earlier. Doesn't look right. Stitch color 12, or other blue, unless you chose other colors for your birds. Okay, color step 13, orange. Color step 14, back to our purple, or whatever color you chose for your flower. Okay, color step 15 is green. Okay, color step 16 of 16 is orange. Just gonna pop back in and do a little bit of detailing. Alrighty, so let's take it out and head into our final steps. Don't forget, in your Kimberbell kit, there's a lovely pair of micro tweezers. And if you see little tiny bits of hair, hairy bits of thread, I guess, and you don't think you can get them with your fingers, you can use the tweezers to hold them up. You can get them with the little bits of scissors. So I'm just looking for anything, any tails or bits that probably shouldn't be there. So we'll tidy it up, remove all the tape, take out those pins that I used earlier to keep the edges out of the way and the stabilizers pinned together. And I feel like we got quite a really nice matchup here. So a little bit of orange here from that marker earlier, but I didn't want to dig too hard at it with the scissors, because after a bit you get kind of digging in there and then you're liable to cut something. I quite often use that stiletto to kind of pick at it. The other thing that needs to go now, and it's really hard to see on screen because it's white on white, but there was that earlier basting stitch, if you recall. I mean, you could leave it in there for trimming if you could see it, but we did it in a very well-matched color. Sometimes if you just go in and put the corners where the direction the stitch changes, and then flip to the back here, get a hold of the bobbin thread, trim at the corners. That bobbin thread is so fine. Sometimes you can just yank it out. Bobbin thread tends to come out easier than the needle thread. There we go. And we can just give those a wee little pull. Do the same up here. See if we can pull enough bobbin thread up. We can get our finger around it. And then it nicely comes out in one pull. Just a little trick. If you need to pick something out and you can do it from the bobbin thread side, it's typically the easiest. I'm going to go cut that at the beginning there. And I'm just going to grab that and pull. There we go. Sneak back to the beginning here. Okay, so one of the things with cutaway, it's going to spend its life in this design. And you can see the first hooping up here. And then we've got this second hooping here. We could leave it in there doubled, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim those two together there. And I'm just going to remove a little bit of this close to the design, but I'm not going to get terribly close. This stuff here in the middle you won't see. And a less solid line, so something a little amorphic. It's a little easier to see from the beginning. Straight lines, not your friend here. So just gonna kind of blow up here to where I was earlier. Maybe just fold that back where we were. On the sides here we don't have double stabilizer, but it just meets. So in the overall, where at all possible, I have a single layer of cutaway because it stays. It stays. Okay, now we're gonna try one of Kimberbell's handiest, dandiest tools. The orange prop ruler. I had showed it to you earlier. What I've grabbed here is a rotating map. They're very handy for this. I'm going to put this kind of a center as best as I can. And then we're going to grab the orange prop ruler. Now, if you have a Kimberbell thing, it will tell you where you're going to put everything. So when it's all together here, down here it's very hard to see on screen, but the sizes are printed right in here. Finished size 8 by 8, cut size 8.5 by 8.5, which is the one we want. This is 6.5 by 6.5, and this is 4.5 by 4.5. And this is a nice fussy cut ruler to use. But now what we want to do is we're going to center this. Now you can use the other rulers for a moment here. I'm going to just use this inner line to intersect that circle. I can see that I have sort of equidistant in the circle there. I'm just going to tip this a little bit, keeping that. And I'm using this inner one so that I have equal spacing into that double circle. But the line I'm going to cut is actually the furthest out one. Now, the easiest thing for me is I'm going to very gently turn this. And I'm going to very firmly hold the orange pop in place. What you're going to do is set your cutter into this little corner nook. And you're going to very gently cut up against the orange pop ruler. Rotate ever so carefully. Hold firmly down here. Place cut. We're just going to work our way around. So the orange pop ruler helps you center for a design. I'll show you what to do if you don't have an orange pop ruler as well. But you can see they're quite handy. All right, so let's see if I have any threads caught. Oh, I do, just a wee bit down here. Yeah, the other corner. But you can clearly see where those little threads are hanging on. Sometimes I'm a little too ginger there. And there we go. Now we have lovely trimmed out square. What we'll do now is we will head to the machine. We'll put our borders on and we'll complete the pillow. I will do a demo right after this one of how to trim using a regular quilting square. So stay tuned. If you don't have an orange pop ruler and you don't have time to get one before you want to finish your pillow, I will show you a bonus lesson on a standard quilting ruler. One of the things that would be very helpful there is when you have everything in your hoop, you embroider through everything, and before you remove the design, go back in and add a motif based so you get a nice stitched square baseline around your circle. It's very helpful in trimming with a standard ruler. All right, so that lesson's coming up next, and then that followed by borders and flanging. Make sure you stay tuned for my corner turning trick. It's totally worth the visit today. I'll meet you over at the machine. We're going to just it's finish up now. It's all sewing, so we need to go change our machine and finish up our sweet little pillow. Thank you. We'll see you over there. Alrighty, here we are. Let's begin. So this is my singular hooped option. And I'm going to give you that bonus trim lesson. And as advised earlier, you want to put a hoop base in there. The interesting thing here, it's really difficult to cut something out in a square if the main design is round as this one is, or, doesn't really have any solid edges to follow. So using the hoop based or the motif based in most machines, hoop based will be the shape of the hoop. So if you have two choices, you want to use the motif based, which has been prescribed by you or your machine to be X number of millimeters or inches larger than the design. So in the pattern here, we need to trim the center out here at 8.5 by 8.5. So I have a 10.5-inch square, and I have these lovely square lines to follow. And doing them in a darker color is quite helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly measure this to see where we're at. Okay, so the design here is about 7 3/4 inch. And I need to trim it out at 8.5. So I'll just move the ruler so that I can see the 8.5 inch here. And then I think it's about 3/8 of an inch on either side of the line that I'm going to need to trim this out. So what I'm using is that basting line inside there to keep this straight. And yeah, it's a roughly 3/8 of an inch. And so visually, I'm just looking above this line over here and over here. And again, down here from that basting line. And it's roughly 3/8 of an inch. And then once I have this centered and straight using that baseline, I can go ahead and cut two sides out. And the overall size will be 8.5. Okay. So then I'm going to trim those two sides away. Toss those out of the way. Then I'll turn this 180 degrees, and I will carefully put my square in at the 8.5 inch marks, and I will go from there. Yeah. So for those of you who don't have your orange top yet, this is a way to give you a nice 8.5 inch square. Be able to stitch your borders on. Okay, so let's complete this one. Go to the sewing machine and carry on finishing our pillow. Join me there. Okay, here we are at our sewing machine. Got our nicely trimmed embroidered block out. We're going to sew border pieces A and B down the sides. Pin if that makes you happy. I've already set the sewing machine up with a sewing thread, kind of a just barely off-white, and I'm going to move my needle over so that I'm going to use the main zigzag foot. There's a lot of questions about 1/4" piecing. In this lovely luminaire that I'm using here today, there's a setting to use the large foot and to go ahead and set the 1/4". That 1/4" is preset in the machine. You head into the quilting menu and select that. Now, one of the things that I like to do with that ever-present stiletto is sometimes there's a bit of creep on the fabric. I like to just keep it going straight in and even. And with the stiletto, I can put stitches where I shouldn't put fingers. Alrighty, we have our 2 side borders on here. But I need to do a quick press. All right, so I brought in this. Right. Okay, so brought our block in. Now I need to press these over. And the one thing you don't want to do is actually hit the iron on the embroidered piece here. But I do like to press from the front, and I'm going to just give that a quick set press. Then I'm going to stitch that out. If they're not happy going over, a little bit of dust press. You don't mind a little starch. And if you just want a heavier, more convincing crease, this is Flatter. It's a Canadian product. I quite like it. But Flatter just relaxes the fibers enough and gives it a really nice press without adding the crispness that starch does. But some of us do enjoy a good crisp press, so either of those will make your day and your stitching better. There we go. So you just press the Flatter dry. Okay. And it's actually best if you leave things like this to sit until they cool. And that gives us a nice clean edge. All right, back to the sewing machine. Our next step in finishing is the border print across the top and bottom. One of the things that we teach in our intro to quilting class is that if anything happens to be a little bit looser, a little bit longer, but everything is cut precisely the size, the slightly bigger one will go on the bottom. I think I'm going to do that on the next side here. Okay, 2 more pieces, back to the press. Here we are. Flatter. Set press that seam. Remember, protect the embroidery, don't iron on it. With these smaller irons, it's a little easier to control the press. I don't need the iron going back and forth there, of course. I only need it here on the border. And it's best for your project not to pick it up and move it while it's still warm. Let it cool. Next step here, I have this two plain pieces that I chose for the back of the pillow rather than a print. And our next step is to fold this a 1/4 inch, fold it a 1/4 inch, and stitch it. However, I want you to press them. I don't like pressing 1/4 inch turnovers because they're very risky for your hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch line down the edge. What that's done is kind of a stay stitch, which is kind of a sewing thing. I'm just going to finger press right next to that stitch, and then I'm going to roll it over. So you've seen a close-up of where we are. I'd like you to see what I do with my fingers. So I've got that first fold here, and I fold this over, and it folds over nice and straight because that first 1/4 inch is under there and it's helping to measure. And I roll as I go, even though I did finger press earlier, which helps keep it straight. But I just run my finger under there. Alrighty, there we go. I'm just going to take them over to the iron, give them a quick press. All right, here we are. Just going to snip that apart. Okay, so here we go. Got my pillow front, my backs. No need for the press mat at the moment. And what we're going to do here, we're going to take the right side of the front. We're going to line that top edge up there and the sides here. And then we'll take the right side of this, place it on the bottom, center it all the way around. Before I pick it up and take it too far, put a few pins in at key location. Now I always pin with the heads of my pin hanging out the sides like this, because no matter which way I choose to sew this from, I'll easily be able to track my pins and remove them at the appropriate time. So I can sew from this side and easily remove the pin, but if I need to sew from this side, I can easily see and remove the pins. Just a little trick I learned a very long time ago. Now, before you get turning your pillow, if you're not happy with the tails here, grab your little curvy squizzy scissors, you know, the ones that squeeze, and trim some of those dark tails away. The good news is they're not really going to show through because we have that medium cutaway stabilizer. We have in the circle here the embroidery batting. We have that fusible woven. So sometimes on a light colored thing, these tails would be a bother, but they're not really going to be on this one. So there we go. Alrighty, back to the machine. My magnetic pin cushion. I'm going to just set that sort of off camera. But as I pull my pins out and I drop them on the pin cushion, it's going to grab them. It's going to sort them, keep them straight. Kind of actually grabs them out of the air. You don't have to work awfully hard. All right. So we're going to work at about a 1/4 inch seam allowance again here. Alrighty, so we've gone around the entire perimeter at a 1/4 inch. And I would like you to skip the next step in the instructions, please. We're going to turn this pillow and we're not going to go in and snip the fabric out of the corners. What we're going to do, and I'll try to keep this in front of the camera, is we're going to take our I'm dominant right-handed. I'm going to take my left hand and put it into the pillow. And what I'm going to do is just push my thumb diagonally into the corner. Then I'm going to fold back that seam allowance here. Then I'm going to fold the opposing seam allowance there. And what you can see there is a very sharp little corner folded in. What we're going to do is transfer that corner off of my thumb onto my finger. And what happens there is, see how dang pointy that is? It's beautiful. So I'm going to repeat the process 3 more times. Thumb in there, just as something to fold against. I'm going to create that nice tidy point. So I have all 4 points turned. Meet me at the cutting table. Here we are at the cutting table, and I'm going to complete the flip. And you can kind of see that all 4 corners are tucked in there right at the moment. Now this is such a nice, easy thing to flip. Just going to bring it through. But I pre-poked all the corners through, and then now we'll just drag that out. There we go. Now, if any corner isn't as perfect as it could be, we'll know now. And what I normally would do, this one's kind of at a slight angle in. I just gently take the end of that stiletto into the seam allowance and just through the stitches there, and gently pry that corner up. We're not plucking, we're not pulling. We're just lifting it gently through the seam allowance. And now we have a nice point. This one's pretty good, but you know, pretty good and perfect. Whoops, slipped out there. Just a gentle lift. So we accomplish that by creating a corner inside that we fold out. Okay, there we go. Now you might want to go in and give this a little press. Press from the back side. It's really easy for me to see that border of orange. flat. It's not as flat as you want. Flatter. It just relaxes the fibers. All right, this might be the time that you remove the basting thread later. We have one last stitch out to do, and what we're going to do is take this back to the machine, and we're just going to stitch in the ditch between the background and the border. That'll create a little flange here. Now, it might be a little hard to see on screen. You see on my fingers? There's a little laser light on this machine. And if that helps me stay in the ditch exactly where I want to be, I'm going to use it. Lovely little flange. See it on the back here. All right, let's grab a pillow and get this finished. All right, sorry about that. In your supply list, I forgot something really important. A pillow insert. I may have mentioned it, but I didn't have one here to show you. It's an 8x8 Kimberbell pillow insert here. Available on the website. Sometimes they come in and this one's not too bad. Sometimes they come in and they are flat. They've been backpacked super tight. As soon as you open the packaging, they fluff them and buff. Some things are so flat, you might even want to let them sit for a day or so. So this one's not so bad, but if you are having a hard time getting a pillow in because it looks like you've got to go up and then down, sometimes flipping that up and away. You could just shimmy your pillow into the lower half there. And then take that and basically push the pillow down in and roll that back over. You can massage into place there. There we go. And isn't that the sweetest little thing? I will, of course, take that basting stitch out when it's flat, but I wanted to show you. There we go. Sweet as can be. Two little pillows for you. Slightly different color variations. This one has a little deeper, darker, rusty oranges and things in it. Slightly different blues. This is a sort of a brighter royal. This is a bit deeper navy. Just know that you can make your pillow in any colors you want to match your decor and somebody's favorite colors. You can completely do this in Christmas colors. Put it somewhere in your house for a decoration. It's all good. Ooh, well, that was quite the deal. A couple sweet little pillows, lovely little Trapunto embroidery. I hope you had a good time. I hope to see you next month. Do join us 4:15 Mountain Standard Time, Monday to Friday for our Facebook Lives. They're a boatload of fun. And might I recommend Wacky Wednesday with our own Sandy? She is adorable. You'll love it. It's so much fun. She just loves what she does, and you can see it in the video. And you might notice the costumes. It's all in good fun. We hope to see more of you. Take care. Bye.